Welcome everyone. My name is Benedict. I'm an organiser for Earthstrike UK, and thank you all very much for tuning into our live stream this evening, Climate Justice and Class Struggle, which is a project for grassroots, which we've put together as part of the Global May Day, which is a project for grassroots labour unions and other organisations supporting workers' struggle, to support each other across borders and to make our work more visible. This year, we've chosen to draw attention to the ecological crisis that we all face, a crisis that has been brought about by the endless pursuit of profit by the capitalist class, and a crisis which is already bringing flood, fire and famine and war all over the world, with the poorest of us suffering the earliest and the most. The global ecological crisis is an issue for the working classes worldwide, and many of us are already engaging with fighting against the impact in our local areas. We've asked our members of our network to share a video contribution about ecological struggles that they're currently facing and currently fighting. The first of these contributions is about North Bay Jobs for Justice as 5 for Farmers campaign, which I will play for you now.
A weather system affecting Northern California is bringing dry lightning and blustery winds, and that's unleashing the risk of new wildfires as crews make headway against existing blazes.
Estás trabajando y estás oliendo de lo que es el humo tóxico. Cuando está el humo tengo que estar usando mi inhalador constantemente. Después de trabajar tiene ganas de estornudar y escupir, la saliva tan negra, y así está lo que apenas está escupiendo, cómo ha de estar por dentro, lo que es los pulmones. A nosotros que como personas indígenas e inmigrantes documentados, a nosotros nos afecta más porque no tenemos protección, nada.
Another explosive fire is burning in Sonoma County's wine country that is north of San Francisco. Homes are destroyed there as well, and thousands had to actually run for safety.
Climate change changes everything. 5 years ago, we didn't have to take into consideration fires in terms of the workforce, to fires in terms of farm workers. Workers are being asked to work at a much quicker pace than prior because wineries are very concerned they won't be able to harvest the grapes, they won't be able to get the crops in before smoke damage comes, before fires come. We all benefit from the work of immigrant workers here in Sonoma County. And as we respond to the impacts of climate change, it's critical that indigenous voices, immigrant voices, are actually the first voices we listen to because the knowledge is there.
Bareka María Salina, organización Movimiento Cultural de la Unión Indígena como voceras de pueblos indígenas. Hay mucho lujo ahí donde prueban el vino, los lugares hermosos, pero digo, lo que están haciendo para tener este sueño son los trabajadores que trabajamos tan duro. Esta es la realidad para los dueños, digo, que tienen tanta riqueza, pero para unos trabajadores no podría uno estar ahí disfrutando esos lugares. Yo tomé la decisión de trabajar con el movimiento porque ellos abogan en lo que es justicia lingüística. Cuando los que son supervisores te dan informaciones de lo que capacitaciones de lo del trabajo, puede ser que es en inglés o en español, pero muchas de las personas hablamos nuestra propia lengua, que es lenguas indígenas, que es chatino, triqui, mixteco, mam, caquichel. Sí, entonces hay personas que no captan, no les llega ese mensaje. Eso es una injusticia y es frustrante. Muy buenas tardes, en esta tarde tan bonita, es una bendición el día de hoy con la lluvia, no podemos quejarnos de la lluvia, es porque necesitamos agua, agua es vida. ¿Qué es lo que queremos nosotros para que haya un cambio para los trabajadores y que haya respeto y dignidad para ellos?
When we think about this billion-dollar industry in the county, we have to think about the hands that produce these riches. Currently, we're involved in the Five for Farm Workers campaign that is organizing farm workers in advance of this year's wildfires.
Al principio fue que recopilamos, hicimos unas pequeñas encuestas y recopilamos testimonio de los trabajadores.
The workers have come up with 5 priority demands to make of public officials and wineries. Those demands are 1, hazard pay in the evacuation zones. Secondly, insurance for workers. The grapes are insured, so the employer is covered when it comes to the actual crop, but workers have no pay if they don't work. The third demand is around language justice on the job during the fire so that emergency processes are translated not only in Spanish but in indigenous language of the workers. The fourth demand is around access for community observers in times of fire so that they're observing what's happening on a given work site. And then the fifth demand, clean bathrooms and fresh water. You have ash and soot coming down, and that creates for disasters in terms of bathroom cleanliness. On the whole, we've not been received with open arms with these demands.
Simi Winery is part of Constellation Brands, which is actually one of the largest beverage companies in the whole world. Last year, they had revenue of over $4 billion. We're asking them today to make history and be the first winery to sign on to the Five for Farm Workers. We've been trying to reach them for 2 months with letters, certified letters, emails, even a small group of people visiting them 2 weeks ago, and they still haven't gotten back to workers. And so if this winery is not even willing to respond to workers, the workers are going to have to take action in order to get their attention, and the community is going to be here to back them up.
Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? And when do we want it? What do we want? And when do we want it? What do we want? And when do we want it?
They deserve a raise.
And when do we want it? And what do we want? And when do we want it? Let's go, Chuck. Let's go, Chuck. Let's vamos en la lucha. Let's go, Chuck. Let's go, Chuck. Let's vamos.
Todos los que nos dieron voz esta noche, para mí es valioso porque así nos escuchan, porque ahora veo que sí vale la pena luchar por lo que merecemos, porque no estamos pidiendo algo que no merecemos, sino que algo que sí nos merecemos. Ahora con esta voz que estamos luchando juntos, vamos a ganar esta lucha. Como un centro un lugar de batalla.
Estos dueños de viñedos, que a ellos nada más lo que les importa es ganar. No le dan tiempo a la tierra de descansar.
Me imagino que es como una persona, ya no puede trabajar y están ahí a un lado y trabaja y tienes que hacerlo y tienes que producir, pero no le dan ese descanso, no le dicen ahora ya esta persona se cansó, tienes que sentarte, descansar, tomar agua. Y lo mismo me imagino con las plantas.
Pues sí, es el tiempo de sanar, que ellos están sanando también.
Como vemos que los árboles son tan fuertes y así nosotros vamos a seguir con esta energía, porque no todo está perdido, y luchar por la dirección que nosotros queremos dirigir.
Past 6 years, California's wine country has had 23 major fires that burned nearly 1.5 million acres, an area larger than Rhode Island. While others flee, farm workers have often been forced to stay and work in the fields.
Vale la pena ir a pescar, vale la pena dejar la familia. Hay veces que hay momentos donde tenemos que hacer esa reflexión, pero al igual dices, ¿qué vamos a comer? ¿Cómo vamos a sobrevivir?
Sí, me he sentido presionado trabajando durante el incendio porque no me quedaba otra opción.
Cada que piscábamos la uva, el racimo de uva que jalábamos, se venía la ceniza de lo que había quedado del incendio.
Están arriesgando su vida, su salud, descuidando a la familia y dándole la prioridad al patrón. Y al final no reciben lo que se merecen.
Farm workers in Sonoma County are organizing for basic protections ahead of this year's fire season. They want the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors to take action by June 1st. Fire season in California is rapidly approaching, and scientists say the blazes this year could be the worst ever.
With 5 demands, what we call the 5 from farm workers, one of those being the demand for hazard pay. Secondly, if a worker chooses not to pay or cannot work due to smoke, due to fires, due to crop loss, we feel that they should be compensated for their lost wages. The harvest is a key moment in a worker's economic livelihood for their families, and to not be able to work is devastating. The third demand is around language justice. Any instructions given to workers in an evacuation zone in a time of fire be translated not only from English to Spanish, but also to the indigenous languages that are spoken in Sonoma County. The fourth is around clean water and clean bathrooms, and the fifth is around community safety observers. These are people that we're organizing to actually go and observe the fields, make sure that workers are protected, make sure that safety standards are up to par.
Even in evacuation zones, farm workers say they feel the economic pressure to continue working.
Y no tenemos ese lujo de decir, hoy no trabajo, o esta semana no trabajo porque está el incendio, o porque tenemos que estar con la familia. No, es una obligación trabajar, ya sea un lugar donde está evacuada, se nos deja entrar, tan solo decir, venimos a pescar o vamos a pescar, los policías nos dejan entrar, aunque ya es un lugar donde no deberíamos entrar.
Farm workers also bear the economic brunt when conditions are too dangerous to work or if the crops are destroyed.
Los dueños de los viñedos, ellos no pierden nada porque ellos tienen asegurada su uva, su producto. Nosotros como campesinos sí perdemos mucho porque dejamos de trabajar muchos días. Y ese fue un problema muy grande para todos los trabajadores del campo.
En esa temporada de incendio nos tuvieron que cancelar días de trabajo y no teníamos un sueldo para poder sustentar nuestros gastos.
Teniendo un seguro de desastres, incluyendo el incendio o cualquier desastre, la diferencia que habría sería de yo no tener que preocuparme. Así que si yo no trabajo 3, 4 días por el humo, yo me siento más tranquilo porque sé que tenemos asegurado el seguro de desastre y sé que de allí podemos recompensar el tiempo que se está perdiendo, el salario que se está perdiendo.
I believe that language justice, disaster insurance, and hazard pay are human rights.
Si ganamos va a ser un logro enorme, no nada más para mí ni para mi familia, yo creo que es para todos los trabajadores.
Que salimos a arriesgar nuestras vidas siempre, haya incendios o no haya, siempre andamos arriesgándonos en pesticidas, todo lo que ponen a los viñedos, nosotros sí tenemos que andar. Y por eso yo le digo a mis compañeros de trabajo que nos apoyen a esta campaña.
Welcome back, everyone. So those were two short documentaries about the Five for Farmers campaign, struggling for language justice, safe workplaces and economic protection in the event of disaster, struggling in the face of a warming climate, a rapidly warming climate, and the ever-present threat of massive wildfires. So solidarity to those workers in their struggle. Climate justice and workers' justice are one and the same. We are all part of the same global ecology. We affect it and it affects us. As such, threats to the environment are threats to workers. And at the same time, the tools that we use as workers to defend ourselves can also be used to defend the environment. Industrial action, strikes, pickets, workplace occupations can and should be used on a massive scale to defend our planet from the onslaught of capitalist destruction. There is already a long history of this in the labour movement, and before I move on to our next contribution, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the green bans. In New South Wales, in Australia in the 1970s, the Builders and Labourers Federation, which represented the workers in the building industry, imposed a series of work bans on projects that they believed would be detrimental to the environment or the community, and the community. They defended and were able to save social housing, historical buildings, and wild bushland. When the first green ban was called at a place called Kelly's Bush, the company that was building there threatened to bring in scab labour to work on the site. The workers responded by threatening to halt work at an office block that was being constructed by the same company, and saying this: if you attempt to build on Kelly's Bush, even if there is the loss of one tree, this half-completed building will remain so forever as a monument to Kelly's Bush. The company backed down and Kelly's Bush was saved. So these green bans, which were always imposed at the invitation of the local community following a mass meeting. So that first green ban was imposed after a meeting of 600 workers and community members. They show what can be achieved when workers in the community stand together to defend their environment and use their collective industrial might. So our next contribution then comes from workers at Kavala Oil in Greece. These workers have been laid off by their employer en masse, all 185 workers, as a part of a company restructuring to try and cut costs, the idea being that they'll be replaced with unskilled and inexperienced contract workers. So Kavala oil workers are now fighting to defend not only their jobs, but their community and environment as well from the threat of accidents, because the site isn't being properly staffed and safety measures are not being taken. So this here is their contribution.
2011, and they set about getting to know the politicians.
Correction, that isn't the right contribution. I will just flick through and find the right one in a second.
License, basically, trying to
There we are. And for anyone who's watching who might happen to be in or near London tomorrow, the company that owns Cavala Oil is called Energene. They're a London-based oil and gas company. And tomorrow we will be holding a demonstration in solidarity with the Cavala oil workers. So please keep an eye out for that and come along if you're able. We also have a solidarity statement, which I would encourage everyone to sign and share, which I will be placing in the chat shortly. In the meantime, our next contribution is from Save Our Sperrins. Save Our Sperrins is, or SOS, is a community-led group organised to peacefully resist gold mining in the Sperrins mountain range by the company Dalridian. To date, 18,500 objection letters have been submitted to oppose the mines, and SOS has used non-violent direct action to protect the environment from resource extraction. Some protesters have been subject to acts of intimidation, smear campaigns, verbal abuse, physical violence by both the mining companies and the police. And here is their contribution now.
Hello, I'm Fidelma O'Kane from Save Our Sperrins, and I'm sitting here at the Greencastle People's Office today, high in the heart of the Sperrin Mountains, in an area of outstanding natural beauty. And I want to tell you about our campaign against Dalridian Gold. Dalridian Gold is a Canadian exploration company that came here around 2011, and they set about getting to know the politicians, getting to know people in the community who had influence, and building up their social license, basically, trying to win friends and influence. And then in 2017 they applied for planning permission for a gold mine and a processing plant here in the Sperrin Mountains, just 1,200 metres above the village of Greencastle, and much closer than that to the football club, to the playing fields, to the community centre and to the chapel. And in Greencastle there's a primary school and a playgroup as well as housing and a shop and bar. So it's very close to a settlement, and a settlement that we think it shouldn't be close to. Dalridian applied for their gold mine, and the people have learnt about gold mining in other parts of the world. We have found out that it poisons water, air, land and health. And in 2015 we set up Save Our Sperrins campaign in order to protect the area and to fight against Dalridian and to stop their planning application when it would go in. And it has grown in strength over the years. We have a Facebook page, and in February 2018 the Greencastle People's Office was set up, and it is a protest camp on the prospective site of Dalridian's gold mine. And that's where I'm sitting today, and it's beautiful and tranquil and peaceful and lovely scenery all around me. And we don't want this destroyed. We don't want the water poisoned or the air poisoned, and that's what will happen if a gold mine goes ahead. For example, Dalridian they have applied for a gold mine that will be an underground mine 900 metres deep into the earth, and they will take out thousands of tonnes of rock. That rock will be crushed to a fine consistency of sand in order to get the gold ore. Then the waste rock will be stored in a huge mine waste facility, 54 metres tall. That's 17 stories high, and that's up here on top of this Crockenboy Hill. And that is a huge thing. It's not only the 17 stories high, but it's something over 900 metres long and over 300 metres wide. So it's a huge, vast mountain of waste rock crushed, containing heavy metals like arsenic and mercury and cadmium and chromium and zinc and lead, etc. A huge number of toxic metals. And they will be crushed to the fine consistency of sand, so they will be able to blow about in the air and blow all over the country. It's not just Greencastle or the Sperrin Mountains, but this will affect every county in Ireland and will blow much further afield and into people's lungs, causing respiratory diseases and cancers. And not only that, this area, the whole northwest of Ireland, is high in radon gas. And radon gas is really carcinogenic, and once it's released, it goes into their lungs and it causes respiratory diseases and cancers. And that is why here, people, if they're building a house, they have to put a radon barrier in the foundations to stop the radon gas seeping through. But if the gold mine goes ahead, obviously the radioactive contaminants will be released and they will be blown about in the air too. Not only will the air be affected, but all these toxic heavy metals and radioactive contaminants will leak and leach into our water table and into our streams and rivers. And that is very concerning, because our two main rivers here, the Owen and the Owen Ray, are both the headwaters of the River Foyle. All of these are supposed to be specially protected, areas of special scientific interest, special areas of conservation, and the River Foyle itself is an area of special scientific interest, and it's known worldwide for its salmon fishing. But all that will be at risk if this gold mine goes ahead. So people's livelihoods are at risk, because this is a farming community, small family farms, and they will be all damaged if gold mining goes ahead, because it will affect the grass, it will affect their cows, and it will affect the milk, and the farmers will not be able to sell their milk on, and their livestock as well. So Dalridian talk about creating jobs here during the 20 years of their mine. Well, we have looked at gold mines in other countries in the world, and in fact it's usually not local people who are recruited as miners. They're usually flown in and flown out from other countries in the world, and all their entertainment is provided on site. So really there is nothing for the local people, but it bring things that we don't want to have here, like alcoholism and prostitution, etc. All those things are associated with gold mining in other countries. And we also, I'm saying that the farming will be ruined, fishing will be ruined because our waters will be poisoned, and tourism, which is just really only developing here. It's really in the early stages of development. You know, bed and breakfast places, pods, and there's so many lovely walks. There's lots, over 100 archaeological sites within 8 miles of where we're sitting, and there's just the clean air and the beautiful scenery unspoilt. That's what people want to experience and enjoy. So that is all at risk if this gold mine goes ahead. I also want to tell you about what we have faced because we have dared to oppose this gold mine. We have faced criminalisation of the people here, of the defenders and protectors of the water, the air, the land and the health. Many of our people over the last 3 years have been taken to court because they have objected, they have had protested against Dalradian, they have picketed, they have stood and blocked the road, and they have been charged with petty offences like aggravated trespass, like blocking the road, like daring even to speak to a Dalradian employee. So we've had death threats, we've had physical assaults, we've had harassment, intimidation, we've had cyberbullying, we've had many things have happened as we've been followed by suspicious cars late at night, and you know, we actually are living in fear, but our determination has made us strong because we're fighting this fight not for ourselves but for our children and for our grandchildren and for the future generations, that they will be able to live in the Sperrins in peace and prosperity without poisoned dust and without poisoned air and poisoned water and poisoned land and their health ruined. So that is the main reason that we're fighting this campaign, and we have gained support from people in other campaigns throughout the world who are fighting a similar campaign, and we are absolutely determined to see this through, and we support all the campaign groups in Ireland who are also fighting prospecting licences throughout the whole island, because these companies, these mining companies, have been invited in by the governments north and south to come to Ireland. They've been given them the geological maps from the TELUS survey and telling them, you know, come to Ireland, we're open for business, and they're giving them grants and incentives, tax concessions to come here. And this is the companies, all they want is to make profit. They're here for money. We're here for the good of the people, and that's the difference. That's why we believe we will win.
Hello again, everyone. So that contribution was from Save Our Sperrins, in solidarity to them in their struggle. Now we've got one last contribution left to go. This is a contribution from a project that I'm sure many of us will have found deeply inspiring over the past few years. A struggle for liberation, for ecology, for feminism. And this video is, this contribution is from our comrades in Rojava, who have resisted and have been victorious against Islamic State and are now defending themselves against assault and invasion by the Turkish state. And throughout all of this struggle, they've managed to build a society based on freedom and solidarity and ecology. Now, just before this video starts, I would like to make a quick content note for blood and dead bodies. So if you're uncomfortable with that, the video is only 2 minutes long. And here it is.
cihan zor gredanem nere zor Çüne peş perdi quinin edi qalem beş çüne jor Gece biner çarxa cihan zor gredanem nere zor Çüne peş perdi quinin edi qalem beş çüne jor Gece du gazın bimere var şevre Bilowem du gazın bimere var kenge Hayem geçki kurdanım şirinim şengünem evi amerdanem Hayem geçki kurdanım şirinim
There we are, that was our last video from our comrades in Rojava and solidarity to them in the world that they are trying to build and defend from invasion and attack. So thank you very much everyone for tuning in. It has been wonderful to hear from the various struggles around the world that connect up all aspects of our life and all of our struggles for justice. That's it from me. Solidarity everyone. One world, one struggle.